Well, first, doing the show gives you a chance to tell a 9-episode season. You get a chance to do a lot of world building. So we got a chance to show canonical parts of the galaxy that maybe didn't get much play in the games or in the other books, like the Rubble or Madrigal. And then building off of that, it was a constant feedback loop with 343, where either I would dig deep into the canon to find unfleshed out areas that we could go deeper into or bring out characters, or I could invent new characters and make sure that I incorporate them into the Halo ethos in a way that they feel like they've always been there.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting balance, because for some people it was a moment 20 years in the making. For others, it was a moment that they felt like they didn't ever want to have happen, right? And I think, the decision to take off the helmet was really driven by the story and our desire to tell this character story, and to be able to tell the story of Master Chief, but also to be able to tell the story of John and the person inside the helmet. And so, in order to really get to that story and start to get into John's character journey, it felt important for him to come out of the helmet, and it made sense to do it in episode 1. It was also important that he do it within the context of the story for a reason, right? It's such an impactful moment for the helmet to come off, and you wanted it to really be motivated by something that John wanted to do, and that was a moment where he was building trust with Quan. That was a moment where he needed to leave himself physically vulnerable in order to build that trust and to sort of reinforce his intent with her. And so that was, again, story always guides these decisions and what is the right thing for the story. And as it happens, it was in episode 1. It's a dream come true to be able to bring a universe that you've been so steeped in for so long and have been thinking about storytelling in so many different mediums, to have the opportunity to really bring the universe to life at this scope and the scale and with the level of ambition and detail that we have, but also to have the opportunity to have 9 hours to tell this character story. Right? Video games are such an interesting medium for narrative, and our games have a particular narrative structure based on being first person. And so you have the opportunity with the series to really tell a different kind of story with the Master Chief and with John and with Cortana and Halsey, and explore relationships and dynamics in a way that's hard to do in the games in the same way. And so that was both incredibly daunting, but more than anything, incredibly exciting from a creative perspective, and also, frankly, just from a fan perspective. Yeah, I mean, I think that, even going back to Halo 4, and we've explored the Master Chief and John in novels in different ways, but going back to Halo 4 and the story there of Chief and Cortana, and Chief really starting to sort of question, his place and how much agency he really had in the world. I think that really sort of excited us about spending the time to tell this Chief's story and see him in a different way. The challenge of that, of course, being not impeding on everyone's personal story of Chief, especially with the helmet coming off. So I think the way that we looked at it was, how do we tell this amazing character story of a character we all care about and has such an interesting story, right? Which we read about in the books. So how do we do that? Let players preserve their version of Chief, but also ask them to kind of come along with us for the ride as we tell this one particular story of Chief.
Well, I think it's the hope is that if you have no previous knowledge of the franchise, you can come into this and just have a great ride and enjoy this show and actually get welcomed into the Halo universe and want to dig even further, even more deeply into it. It's, first and foremost, it's meant to be a great ride, a great story about human beings, and the themes are universal about hope and humanity and awe and wonder and taking you to big new worlds you haven't seen. That's what sci-fi gives us the opportunity to do. So my hope is that if you have no knowledge of Halo, it's a great, fun show to watch. And if you are a deep aficionado of Halo, there's plenty of rewards for you as well, because we did it with you in mind.
Well, I mean, I think what we want is for people to come into the story and really be able to sit back and enjoy the story, right? And part of it's also respect for how strong a feeling people have about some of these things. And it was the right thing for this show, for this story, for the helmet to come off, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a difficult decision. And I think, one of the things that's amazing about the Halo community is they're incredibly diverse, and there's a million opinions, and it's very hard to do anything that will please everyone. But my hope is that fans who may not agree with every decision will at least respect why we did it, and as the series plays out, sort of understand why those decisions get made. And so I think being upfront about some of those things that we know are controversial is important, so we can have that conversation. But again, with the hope that as the story and the season plays out, the reason why, because there was never a change for the sake of change, the reason why we made those decisions will become very clear in supporting the story. Yeah, I would say the very most important thing, and this is true of any experience that we build in Halo, we call them the Halo beliefs, which is those very, very universal themes of hope and heroism and humanity, the idea that humanity is something worth saving, the idea that there can be a hero inside any of us, and that wonder and mystery of a sci-fi universe. That has to imbue every single thing that we do, because that really is core to Halo, and telling these human relatable stories against this crazy action sci-fi backdrop with humanity at stake. That is required no matter what we do.
Well, I mean, I took the lesson of working on this for 20 years and trying to and being able to take all that we had created before to start this journey, which was a great gift. And going from doing voiceover to doing motion capture, which helped me ease my way into doing motion capture on screen, which made this a lot easier. Yeah, all my prior experience working on it has helped to lead to this point.
I think it was a little bit different for me, just because my character is new and she is an original character. I did really try to soak in as much as I can about the Halo world, but as it is an adaptation, I just kind of really focused on the scripts and the kind of themes that we want to talk about, kind of, corrupt politics and just dictatorship and all that kind of stuff, and I guess hope and love and everything like that. That's just kind of what I really focused on, trying to play Quan and trying to bring her to life as a new character. How?
That's a good. How do you want that?
How do I want them to? I mean, I can draw from my own personal experience. When I was a young kid, I didn't speak up for myself. I was quite shy, and I think, just kind of being an Asian woman, I was always kind of taught to just be the bigger person and always say sorry first. Those were the kinds of messages and lessons that I learned growing up. But playing Quan, I just kind of realized how important it is to stick up for yourself, because if you don't, no one else is going to. And just playing her for a very long period of time, I've learnt so much from her, just as myself, Yerin, and I really hope that other younger female audiences will be able to feel empowered and to feel that even though there's so much chaos going around in the world, you can still manage to find a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah.
We have so many different strong female characters in this show. I feel like there is a good example for every young woman out there to see different kinds of strength, different kinds of power coming from all different types of women in different places. So, you know, you and also women who, like an admiral who has so much power, that and yet the strength is different. So I hope that we have a lot of examples for young women to see strong, powerful women. It's been, what I wanted to do was explore slightly different parts, different parts or different aspects of this character, and I feel like I got to do that. And she's a little different, and yet she is familiar. That felt safe, a little safe for me, being pushed into this being allowed to stepping into this different medium. So there was some safety and some, pushing my boundaries, which was great, which was really fun. And I can't give you too much information without spoiling things, so. But yeah, I got to do some different stuff, which was fun. What a lovely question. No. Shall we do it now? Shall I process it with you all?
Let's do it.
I don't know how to, that is such a big sort of notion and a big idea that it's hard to actually process that and move forward. And that's I don't know how to process that.
It's a lot to process.
It is a lot. It is overwhelming, and it's an honor to be involved in this game for so long, and this story for so long, that I pinch myself daily. So, no, I haven't really taken that all in. I don't know how to process that, really, in all honesty.
That's a big leap.
Yeah.
It wasn't a leap. It was a
Vaulting.
Yeah, literally.
Airplane ride.
No, it's so different. Theaters, you kind of have to, project and give everything to every single audience from the back row, whereas screen is a lot more intimate. But what's really great was that Pablo was really, really supportive of my kind of transition, and he was so lovely and gave me the biggest tips, was just there with me. And when you have someone who supports and cares for you, it just makes everything so much easier, and you feel like you're supported and cared for.
He is a remarkable leader, because
100%.
I felt the same way. I felt like, this is not my medium. This is not something I feel super comfortable with, and he was very supportive.
Got thrown into the deep end, and he taught me how to swim, and it definitely made going into Halo a much more special experience. 100% yes. And I learnt the hard way, unfortunately. I actually did kind of injure myself during that beginning, war sequence and whatnot. I think the biggest takeaway I've found is mental health, spiritual health, physical health, that you can't beat that. And just trying to find a balance, whatever that is, in the off time, trying to do what makes you happy so that at work you can do your best job possible. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me. But Kwan, is a very emotionally expressive character, and but the crew kind of give me the space and the time to allow me to access those emotions and that space. So yeah, everyone's patience is also really, really something to note as well. I think for Kwan, it's I just want people to know that people, when they're going through, when you've lost something, people will go through so many different emotions and ways of dealing with it, and just the kind of, you know, humanity one has. Sorry, I am going to re-say all that stuff because my brain is co-appropriating everything that I'm trying to say. Yeah, I guess it's just like humans are very, very flawed. And Kwan is a prime example. She's not perfect. She's fearless and she says a lot of things, but sometimes it kind of comes out of a place without thinking of any consequence. But it's just kind of like, how do you give someone time and space and love to grow, to figure out their purpose in life? I think that's the biggest takeaway for Kwan.
My character has a truly, at the beginning of this experience, has a truly blank slate and is able to grasp vast amounts of information faster than we can comprehend as human beings. But what is truly important, and because so she can be a guide, she can be your guide, she can be Master Chief's guide, right, in many ways. But what she learns from him is equally important. And as he is discovering his humanity, so is she. She's understanding what humanity is. And that is a beautiful experience to have. And I feel like that is I don't know what I want audience members to take away from that, other than perhaps, the ability to learn from others can aid our humanity, can aid our empathy. It is a pretty remarkable thing because I believe that she becomes more empathetic as this series evolves. Yeah. And she's a computer. So, what? Let's break it down.
AI in the building. Yeah.
I lived for the past 43 years of my life and have been hurt and and loved, and I had children, and what I'm getting at is all my life experience is relevant fodder for performance when it comes to creating a character. But yeah, I think what you touched on is that there is a vulnerability at times to the character that is not necessarily, that we're not familiar with from the video game. And I think the construct of that is that it's a first-person shooter video game where you're asked to believe that you're the Master Chief and put yourself in his shoes. And now we're making a television show that's a very different medium. And in order to get to know the character and empathize with the character and follow his progress, it really takes a different form of storytelling. And we're filling in aspects of the character and his humanity that you as a player used to fill in with your own personality. And so the process of the first season of our television show is the process of John getting to know who he is as a human. And therefore, we as an audience will all learn more about who the Master Chief is over the course of the first season. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's the reason I took the role. I would say it was really the only fruitful path to take in terms of storytelling. If you're going to try to hold an audience's attention over the course of a long-form series, you really have to be able to have a connection with the character that you're following, the protagonist. You have to be able to have access to his face so you can know how he's feeling about things and what his emotional life is like over the course of time, that's how we empathize and connect with our characters. So it just felt like the obvious choice to make for the medium that it was being told in. It feels like a lifetime. The suit is it's very challenging. It's about 55 pounds of plastic. And the weight is not even the hardest part. It's really kind of how immobile it makes you. It's really hard to move around in there. And, you know, in Halo mythology and lore, the Mjolnir armor is supposed to make you superhuman, super capable, right? When in fact you're just, you know, stacked with 55 pounds of plastic. And so there's a real learning curve there in trying to figure out how best to manipulate it so it looks authentic and makes you look really capable. And then, you know, as a production, how to shoot it so it is impressive enough. And all the stunt sequences were a sharp learning curve, but one that we now have a sort of ingrained institutional knowledge that we'll take forward into season 2. No, it's exciting. It's a huge honor. I feel so grateful and blessed to be in the position that I'm in. I don't take it for granted. It feels like a huge responsibility, and I don't take that lightly. I had a sense immediately after getting the role how much this universe means to people and how much this character means to people. And it just gave me extra incentive to really attack it hard and really try to get it right. Not just for the fans who are so excited to see it realized for the first time in this medium, but also for people who have never played Halo and never been exposed to the universe, to bring this universe that I've fallen so deeply in love with over the last 3 years to a whole new audience and show everybody why we love it so much. It's just provided me extra incentive in that battle. Sure. Yeah. We meet Master Chief in a place that should be pretty familiar to gamers. You know, he is the humanity's last hope that we all have come to know and love. He's the symbol sort of for bravery and courage and a good, you know, a dry sense of humor in the most dire of times. He is that representation for humanity that's now extended across the galaxy, but he's also that representation for all of us as audience members and as gamers. So we meet him there where we know him, and then the process, you know, because we're creating entertainment to suit the medium, the process is really to take him out of that first-person shooter setup where he's kept as a vague symbol and concept for all of us so that we can fill in the details with our own personality. We're taking him out of that realm and putting him into a television show where you're, as a gamer, being asked to put your remote down and not be a co-creator of the process. Sorry, your controller. I don't know if I said remote, but and now you're being asked to kind of sit back on the couch and watch, you know, the Chief go through a very familiar universe that you'll recognize immediately, but interact with him and interface with him in a way that feels very different, because the process of the first season is really John answering the question, who is the Master Chief? And by him trying to figure that out and come to some of those answers for himself and experience humanity for the first time himself, we're really filling in the details that we all have been wanting to know for so long. Who is the Master Chief? We're going to answer some of those questions in the first season. And if you have the ability to sit back and enjoy the ride and let go of your own version of Master Chief, then I think it's a very rich and rewarding universe to be in. And it doesn't devalue any of the Master Chiefs that exist. You know, there's as many different versions of the Master Chief as people who have played the game. and they're all valid. You know what I mean? They're all self-created and user-created, and they're all wonderful. They're not. This one doesn't make those ones wrong, and it doesn't take anything away from the Steve Downes version, who created an indelible and amazing character over the last 20 years. If anything, the hope is that this television show only fills in those places that have been left unexplored.